I was living in Wellington at the time, and I lived in a great little cottage sort of up by the botanical gardens, and I had just been going through a divorce at the time, and I'd gone to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard this almighty smash, and looked out the window and saw the light was on in my car, and there appeared to be someone in the car, and so I quickly rang the police, and the police said to me, "Oh, can you see who's out there?" And so I put my dressing gown on, and they kept telling me, "Go out in the garden, go out in the garden and have a look," and which was kind of scary, really. It was really dark. It was also freezing. It was winter time, and so I went out into the garden, and I realised that there was two guys in the car. Obviously, they looked as though they were going for the stereo in the car. And so I was sort of just ducking down in the garden, as it were, trying to give the police as much information as I could and where I was and all that sort of thing. And the next thing you know, literally within several minutes, the police arrived. And immediately one of the guys opened up the car door and was off up the hill straight away. But what was extraordinary is one of the guys just didn't even move. He just sat there. He didn't even attempt to run away or do anything. The police hauled him out of the car, and then they got him, and there was a lot of sort of loud talking going on. Exactly what was said I can't remember, but I went back inside with one of the policemen. Basically, they'd smashed the driver's side window, and so it was wet and cold, and we had to stick bags over it, to try and cover it up in the night. So then it just became a great inconvenience to some extent, except I remember I couldn't get out of my head, who were these two guys? What were they doing there in that part of town at night? And they were really young, and particularly the guy who just stayed there. I wondered for a long time why he hadn't run. Then after that, then I got a call to say that there was a court case and would I go, and I can't remember who called me, whether it was someone from the courts or from the family group conference, because they just started up at this time, so it was a very new sort of concept, asking me whether I would be interested in actually going to talk to these two young guys and their families. And I, without hesitation, I just thought, yes, absolutely, of course I'll go. But I wasn't prepared for what would happen. It was ages before I heard anything. I remember the frustration of not being kept in touch with what was going on. And then eventually I was told I had to go to Lower Hutt. And one of the young guys and his grandfather were willing to talk to me, and would I be interested in talking to them and going through this process. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'm realising that this was the young guy who hadn't run in the first place. And that was great. I was really actually looking forward to that. It was this poor young guy. I remember him sitting there, and he was so scared, and I just remember thinking I had suddenly gone from just being a woman to this large creature almost, that had the power to kind of yell at or tell off or whatever this guy. And I was quite humbled by that. And I remember the grandfather being sitting back thinking, this is just extraordinary. She's not yelling at us or telling us off or anything. I just told him what had happened and how I felt. And I just said to them I felt really vulnerable, and that I'd been going through a divorce and I was living on my own, and I'd never ever done that before, and so I was quite scared. And then I told them about the inconvenience of not being able to use my car, and I remember then he started to talk, and he started to say sorry sort of over and over and over again, and then it didn't matter. And I remember just saying to this young boy, why did you do it? Why were you there in Wellington when he came from a marae in the north of New Zealand, And he then started to tell me about the story about how he actually really wanted to be a surfer. we're a Maori family from up north. Why are you being compassionate? He just had that utterly puzzled look on his face. But it wasn't about me. It was so much about that boy and his future and the possibilities of life, really. So that was kind of it. I think it was really helpful, and I know that for a fact because I received several letters from the boy himself telling me how he had gone home. He lived with his grandfather, and he had stopped seeing these other boys from the city who really weren't helpful for him. And he had also gone back to school, and that he really was keen to become a surfer. He'd started surfing again, and he was with his family. And he, the way he wrote to me as though I was suddenly a friend. And that was, it was just really, really wonderful. Well, one of the big things that sort of an experience has taught me in life is that instead of it, I think we grow up being told that we should be afraid of certain people, certain events, and we should hide away, or we should shut down, we should get revenge, be angry, all of those sorts of things. When that experience, the more I was open, the more I looked at his circumstances, the more I wanted the best for him, the more I actually opened up. And that's one of the things that, I try and live my life by now. Instead of shutting down and closing down, the more open I can be about things. Life is about expanding, and as we get older we need to expand more. I just think that is very much the way forward, and I want to be that sort of a person. I have choices in my life. I have choices every single day of my life. I have a choice when I get on the tube to be angry because people don't get out of your way. I have a choice to take my frustrations out. I think I've learnt to observe more rather than just take action straight away. And when I do that, I realise that often when I'm angry, it's because I'm angry about myself, not because of what someone else is doing or has done to me. And it's the way you choose to look at life.